Welcome to our deep dive, everyone. We're going to be talking about AI and healthcare today.
Definitely a hot topic these days.
It really is, and we've got this research article. It's called "Key Challenges for Delivering Clinical Impact with Artificial Intelligence." And
Yeah, it's a fascinating one. Dives into both the potential and the real world hurdles.
right, exactly. I mean, the potential of AI in healthcare is huge, but this article it was published back in 2019,
Hmm.
and it does a great job of laying out like what we need to be thinking about, like how do we actually make this work in practice.
And that's really what we're going to try to unpack today, right? Like, what does this AI revolution mean for patients, for
Yeah,
doctors?
for the future of medicine as a whole. I mean,
Absolutely.
so let's jump right in. The article starts by kind of, setting the stage, talking about the potential, and it's pretty impressive stuff.
Oh, yeah. AI is already making waves, showing promise across all sorts of specialties.
Yeah. I mean, I was reading about how it's being used to, interpret medical images like x-rays and mammograms, even CT scans. I mean, that,
But it goes beyond just reading images,
right.
right? I mean, it's being used to actually detect diseases.
Yeah. Like I was blown away by, you know, the fact that it can help detect cancer,
Mm-hmm.
analyze brain tumors, even predict Alzheimer's. It's like,
Yeah.
whoa.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg, you know.
Right.
Think about cardiology. AI can identify arrhythmias from EKGs. In gastroenterology, it's being used to help with polyp detection during colonoscopies and
Genomic.
genomics. Exactly, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. It's amazing. And the article, it kind of paints this picture of, okay, what if AI could help us reduce medical errors?
Mm.
Improve the consistency of care across the board.
That's the dream, right? Every patient, no matter where they are, gets the highest quality care. It's like that's the promise.
And then the efficiency.
Yeah.
Imagine doctors having more time to actually spend with their patients because
Yeah, more time for those human interactions, which are so essential.
exactly. And patients, what if AI could empower them to be more proactive about their own health?
That's a huge piece of it, giving patients personalized insights, recommendations.
And let's not forget about the research potential. You know, AI can analyze these massive data sets and find patterns that we as humans might completely miss.
Yeah, it could lead to breakthroughs. Who knows what we'll discover?
It's mind-boggling to think about, and the article brings this up, it's one thing to have all this potential,
Right.
but how do we actually bring it to the bedside? That's the challenge.
That's where the rubber meets the road. And there's this gap, they call it the AI chasm.
Yeah, the AI
So
cast.
it's this gap between, showing AI's accuracy in like a controlled setting and actually proving that it works in the real world.
So just because an AI system performs well in a lab with, carefully selected data doesn't mean it's going to work in a busy hospital.
Exactly. It's like the difference between, studying a map and actually navigating a city. You've got to deal with real-time traffic.
Yeah, unexpected detours. Yeah.
Exactly. Road closures, AI needs to be able to handle that kind of complexity in healthcare.
And to really know if AI is making a difference, the article emphasized is that we need more of these, what are they called, the randomized controlled trials, the RCTs.
The gold standard. Yep. They can really show us, okay, is this AI actually leading to better outcomes for patients or is it just a fancy algorithm?
Right. It's about proving that it actually works in practice.
Cause and effect.
And then there's the question of metrics. How do we even measure the success of AI in healthcare? Is it just about how accurate it is technically
It's
or?
got to be about more than that, right?
Right,
It's
yeah,
got to be about patient care, about improving outcomes.
absolutely. And the way we evaluate AI, it doesn't always line up with what really matters in actual clinical practice.
We need to make sure those metrics reflect real-world impact, not just how well it does on a test.
And comparing different AI systems, that can be tough too because they might be evaluated using different methods.
Different data sets, it's like comparing apples and oranges sometimes.
Exactly. We need some sort of like standard way to assess these systems.
Common deducts.
Right, so we can really compare apples to apples.
Exactly. And then there's the quirks of machine learning. A lot of these AI systems are based on machine learning. And
Hmm.
while machine learning can have some interesting quirks that we need to be mindful of.
Yeah, the article talks about this idea of data set shift. Yes.
Data set shift.
Can you explain that a little bit?
So imagine you've trained an AI system using data from, let's say, a big urban hospital, lots of different patients.
Okay.
And then you try to use that same AI in a rural hospital, much smaller, less diverse. It might not work as well because the data it learned from doesn't match the new environment.
Oh, I see. It's like studying for a test using the wrong textbook. You might know the material, but it doesn't quite apply to the actual questions.
Exactly. And this data set shift can happen for all sorts of reasons, different patient demographics, different clinical practices,
Different equipment.
different equipment even. So we need to be really aware of this when we're, taking AI from the lab to the real world.
And then there's this problem of AI fitting confounders
Yes.
instead of, like, the true signal. The article talked about that AI that learned to tell wolves from dogs based on the background.
Oh, right. The classic example, snow for wolves, grass for dogs.
Yeah, instead of actually looking at the animals themselves.
Exactly. It's picking up on these spurious correlations, things that seem connected but aren't really.
And that can happen in healthcare too, which is kind of scary.
It can. And the article, gives some real world examples like that AI system that was more likely to identify melanoma when a ruler was in the picture.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. Obviously, the ruler wasn't causing the melanoma.
No, but the AI latched onto it.
It did, and there are other examples too, like surgical skin markings or the model of a scanner.
Even labels, like if a scan is marked urgent, that can influence the AI.
It's really important to understand how the AI is making decisions.
Yeah.
Make sure it's not being fooled by these red herrings.
Absolutely. And it makes you wonder, what other weird correlations is AI picking up on that we haven't even noticed yet?
Right, like, are we missing something? It's a little unsettling to think about.
It is.
It's like we need to be extra careful about how we train these systems and, make sure they're focusing on the right things.
Focusing on what actually matters.
Exactly.
And that's just the beginning.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here.
A lot to unpack. It's not just about the training data either. We also got to think about generalization. Like an AI system that works great on one group of patients might not do so well on another.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like if it's mainly trained on data from, say, one ethnic group,
Exactly.
it might not be as accurate for people from different backgrounds.
And that's a big concern, right? We want to make sure that AI benefits everyone, not just a select few. It's got to be equitable.
So it's like making sure a medical study includes a diverse group of participants, different ages, genders, ethnicities.
Yeah, exactly. You want a broad representation so the results are meaningful for everyone.
And then there's this whole other issue of manipulation, the idea that you could actually trick an AI system.
Ah, yes, that gets into some really interesting territory.
It does. It sounds kind of like science fiction.
It does, but researchers have shown that it is possible. With subtle changes to the input data, you can actually fool AI.
That's a little unsettling, especially when we're talking about healthcare. The stakes are pretty high.
Absolutely, and it highlights the fact that AI, for all its potential, is still a tool.
Right.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or for less than good purposes.
So it comes down to us.
Yeah.
We have to make sure it's being used ethically, responsibly.
It's our responsibility, absolutely.
So it sounds like we've got all these technical challenges to figure out.
We do.
But even if we solve all those, there's still the human element, right? Like, will doctors trust AI? Will patients be comfortable with a machine, playing a role in their healthcare decisions?
Those are the million-dollar questions, and the article digs into some of the barriers and potential solutions.
Mhm.
And one of the biggest hurdles is what's called the black box problem.
The black box, yeah.
A lot of these AI systems are opaque, meaning we don't always know how they're reaching their conclusion.
Like, just trust us, the AI knows best, but, like, how? Why?
Exactly. It's like going to a doctor who prescribes a treatment but doesn't explain why. It's like, well, wait a minute. I want to
Well,
understand.
especially when it's my health on the line,
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on.
Of course, of course. So how do we address this? Well, one solution is to develop AI systems that are more transparent, more explainable, so that they can actually provide insights into their reasoning, show their work, so to speak.
So you can see, like, okay, it considered these factors, and that's how it came to this conclusion.
Exactly. That's an active area of research right now, how to make AI more explainable.
And that makes sense, right? If you can understand how it's thinking, it's easier to trust it.
Absolutely. And then there's a whole question of human algorithm interaction. Like, how do doctors actually use AI in their practice?
Yeah. Do they rely on it too much? Do they ignore it?
It's a new dynamic, right? We're
Mhm.
still figuring out how humans and AI can best work together in a clinical setting.
Like, I'm reminded of that saying, to err is human right.
Hmm.
Doctors can make mistakes, even with the best intentions.
Mm-hmm.
But can AI help reduce those errors, Or will it just introduce new ones?
That's the key question, and it brings up another interesting point from the research. They found that when computer-aided diagnosis was introduced in mammography,
Okay.
it actually led to more false positives without improving outcomes overall.
Oh, wow. That's surprising. I would have thought AI would help reduce errors in that area.
It's a good reminder that just throwing AI into the mix doesn't automatically make things better.
Right.
We have to carefully study how it changes clinical practices, how doctors behave, to make sure it's being used effectively and safely.
So much to consider.
So much to consider, both on the technical side and the human side.
It really is. It feels like we're at this crucial point. AI could either make things worse,
Yeah.
like exacerbate existing inequalities in healthcare,
Mm.
or it could be this amazing tool for creating a more equitable, more accessible system. It all comes down to how we choose to develop it, how we choose to use it.
It's a powerful tool, and like any powerful tool, it can be used for good or for ill. It all depends on us.
It does feel like we're standing at a crossroads.
We are.
Yeah, it's like we have this incredible tool,
hmm
but we have to be so careful with it.
It's a powerful tool, but it's not a magic bullet.
Right, right. It's not going to solve everything.
And we have to be, really thoughtful about how we use it.
And that brings us back to the whole point of this deep dive, right?
Exactly.
We wanted to give our listeners the knowledge, the tools to really understand this whole AI and healthcare thing.
To participate in the conversation, because this is a conversation we all need to be having.
Absolutely. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Like, what are the key takeaways here?
Well, I think first and foremost, don't get swept up in the hype. It's easy to get caught up in all the excitement, but we got to be realistic. AI is powerful, but it's not a cure-all.
Right. Approach it with a critical eye.
Exactly. Ask questions, challenge assumptions. Don't just blindly accept everything you hear.
Especially when it comes to something as important as your health.
Absolutely. And remember, AI systems are only as good as the data they're trained on.
Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Exactly. So if the data is biased, incomplete, unrepresentative, the AI's results will be flawed.
Like those examples we talked about, AI picking up on those weird correlations.
It can happen.
Yeah, so be aware of those limitations. It's not perfect. It can make mistakes.
It's a tool, remember.
Right, but don't let that discourage you either.
Yeah.
Because there is so much potential here.
There is. There is.
I mean, AI could truly revolutionize healthcare, make it better for everyone,
Imagine diagnosing diseases earlier, personalizing treatments.
making healthcare more efficient, more accessible.
And who knows what we'll discover, with AI analyzing all this data.
It's like the possibilities are endless, so
They are exciting times.
they really are. And as we wrap up, I think a good question to leave our listeners with is, what role do you want to play in all of this?
That's the question.
Like, will you be an advocate for the ethical use of AI?
Will you help patients understand this technology?
Will you speak up to make sure that AI is being developed and used responsibly, fairly?
It's up to all of us to shape this future.
It really is. The choices we make now are going to have a huge impact.
They will on healthcare, on society as a whole.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI in healthcare.
It's been a pleasure.
It has been. We hope you found it, informative and interesting.
And maybe even a little bit inspiring.
Yeah, because there's a lot to be hopeful about here.
There is. And we encourage you to keep learning, keep exploring, because the more we understand about AI, the better equipped we'll be to harness its power for good.
And create a future where healthcare is truly, effective and accessible for everyone.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. Thanks again for listening.
Thanks, everyone.